Yep.
Okay.
Alrighty. Good. Let me make sure that we're good. I think we are.
Oh.
Alright. Welcome. This is really my first real attempt at doing a Facebook Live video. I think I did one a while back, months ago. So, just thought that I would get this ball rolling here. I was actually going to do this in my office and everything. I had this whole thing I wanted to talk about, the 4 steps to overcome the obstacles that are keeping you from achieving your goals. And then I was talking with my daughter Brianna here, and I came right up here. This is in a few years ago, and she was reading it. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we found most of the stuff in chapter 4.
Okay, so it's in the recreating yourself concept. But she was reading this, and so I come up and I was asking her,
Quizzing me.
I was asking her though, like, what are you reading? She goes, I'm reading your book. And so I asked her, like, what are you reading about? Like, tell me what you're reading about. And
to refresh your memory,
yeah,
kind of.
Jog everybody's memory, or anybody. We don't know if anybody's here, so if I'm not, like, if I don't acknowledge you or say hi or anybody watching there, it's because I got this on my phone right now and it's turned around so I can't see. So forgive me. This is first time doing a live video, like I said. But if you're watching, thank you, and go ahead and tell them what you were reading about.
Okay, so I was reading. I wasn't reading chapter 4.
Mm-hmm.
I got to page 6. It was part of the intro, and that's when my dad came up. So I was looking here, and to refresh his memory, he said, "What were you reading about?" So I go to chapter 4.
Just tell me what you were reading. You remember? Like what it was about?
Hold on, let me see. Okay, chapter 4. So he asked me what I was reading about, and I said that I was reading about when he was young and he had a job that he didn't really like, and I was at the time 6 months old.
What do you mean when I was young? I'm not still young anymore.
Well,
you
are. No, you are young. You are young.
Okay.
No, I mean like in your 30s or 20s. That's what I mean.
When I was young. Oh, cool.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. And so I had a job that I didn't like, and
yeah, and at the time I was 6 months old, and me and my mommy would stay home, and my dad would work, and he wouldn't like his job at all, because he would wake up to his alarm, and it would. By the time it was 5 a.m. in the morning, he would be out on his little hour journey. To where was it?
To work in Danville from Tracy. So.
Oh. And that was probably a really, really, really long drive. And by the time he came back home, it was 7 a.m. at night. And so
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Yeah. So it was dark in the mornings. What I was saying, it was dark in the morning. She was really, really little, and when I would leave for work, and then she was sleeping, and then when I got home at night, it was dark, and a lot of times she was, sleeping again, or,
taking a nap.
Yeah, but I had very little time. My wife was, wiped out from work all day as well, and, we were commuting and everything, and it was just...
terrible.
Yeah, it was... I didn't like it, because I was missing all this time with them, and, just working, all these hours to make ends meet and pay bills and do all this stuff. And, so anyway, it got me to, I wanted to talk about a lot of that, because I think that's a lot of people now are kind of struggling with that, waking up in the morning and feeling like, oh my God, not again. Or, if you're dealing with a crazy commute or just long work days, a lot of time away from the family. And, we have goals. Like, I had reached a point, during this time where I was going, man, this is just like nuts, there has to be a better way where, I could live life more on my terms. I didn't like the idea of thinking, man, I got to do this, work like this, and spend time away from them, and I'm missing. I didn't want to miss any of those, moments when she's growing up and learning how to walk or saying her first words or, those types of things. And, just having 2 days off on the weekend, well, shit, by the time you're, excuse my language, but by the time that you're, on the weekend, you are so wiped out from the work week. It's like Friday night, you're not really doing a whole lot because you're tired. And then Saturday is like your only day. Because, I know for me, I know for me, Sunday would come around, and by, late afternoon, I'm starting to get the anxiety going about, I got to get up tomorrow, got to go to work, the whole week ahead and all that. And so this was a video I wanted to talk about. I thought it was important to have you in here. Yeah, this stuff all the time.
Before school.
Yeah.
And we call it in the office, and in your chair, we call it the hot seat.
Yeah. The hot seat.
Or the sweet spot or whatever.
Sweet spot, yeah. And we were talking about this the other night with Mom, too. About, and this is...
Oh, yeah. Can I explain it?
A little bit.
Okay.
Just a little.
What we did was my dad told me to get some printer paper. The paper they used to print stuff on. And so we got two, one for my mom and one for me. And basically my dad told us to write down as many things, like goals or something, like things that happen. So let's say he did that today. He would say, write down only the good things that happened to you today, not in yesterday or last week, today. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. And so I wrote down 10 things.
Yeah. And so we had talked about that, but we got into, because I think it's important, that my wife and I like to talk to our daughter about, living her life and doing what she wants to do, because I'm a big believer, and I've been through it, that, if you don't consciously create your life the way you want it, then it will be created for you. And so, I'm just a big believer in trying to help my daughter understand that at a young age, so that she, as she grows older and everything,
I will remember, and it'll probably help me. Well, not probably. It will WILL, all in capital letters, because it's important. Will definitely help you guys who are watching, and me, and everyone.
Absolutely. So let's get into what we're talking about. So 4 steps to overcome your obstacles that are keeping you from achieving your goals. These are 4 steps that I wrote about in my book, and I was actually just had dug that book out and was going through it, and I keep thinking, why am I not talking about this stuff more and teaching this stuff more and just kind of getting out there with it. So again, this is my first live video. So
live.
Yeah, we're live.
Wait, your first one?
Yeah, it's my first. Pretty much. I did not a long time ago, probably, I don't know, 6 months ago. I did something, but this is really the first kind of live. So thank you.
Congratulations.
So, at least we know we got one viewer, you. So anyway, okay. So here's the 4 steps, and my daughter was kind enough to write them on the whiteboard today.
He told me to, and I said okay.
So they are, number 1. They are to identify your story, and we're going to talk about these a little bit here today. So number 1 is identify your story, right?
I will find the page real quick.
All right.
Wait,
number
is that
2.
4? Okay, right here. Identify your story.
Yeah, we're not going to read the book, though. Where's number 2? Step number 2.
Identify where your story came from.
Okay. And then what do we got for number 3? You got them right there.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing.
Stop, drop, and replace.
Yep. And then what's number 4?
Rewrite your story. So I'm thinking stop, drop, and replace means like editing your story, kind of. Kind of means like editing your story a little bit, and then step 4 is like once you've done all the editing part of your story, then you write down like the final draft of your story.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So a lot of this has to do with our story, right? And this is the biggest thing, because I know, if you don't know who I am and you're watching me and thinking, who the hell is this guy and what's he talking about this, why?
Yates.
Yeah, my name's Kevin Yates. And so Basically, I'll just give a very quick kind of background here, and then we'll get into the steps. But just to let you know where I'm coming from and how I came to learn about this. Obviously, I've had my own struggles that I've gone through at the worst point in my life, and this was mostly before you were born and some of it after. But, I had a load of health problems. I had some serious problems, blood pressure problems. I had anxiety. I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder in 2002. I suffered from a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. Like every single day I was in this, real bad depression that I didn't really recognize it, I think. I just think I thought it was normal. Like everybody goes through it and suck it up and all that. I had chronic pain all over my body. Everything hurt all the time. I was 36 pounds overweight, and I had suffered from addiction to alcohol and drugs. I was like really doing some things there that, and I was struggling with that. A lot of it had to do with what was going on in my life. My wife and I, at the worst point, we were $55,000 in debt, and nearly got evicted out of our apartment when she was around that 6-month-old time.
What does that mean?
That means that we almost got kicked out of our apartment in
Why?
Tracy. Oh, it's a long story. But, we were there. We had our issues in our marriage. We were separated a few times and almost divorced. And, those were just some of the highlight reel going on. So, there was a lot of struggles that were happening. And, there was a lot of work I had to do to overcome them. And, it really has to do with the 4 steps that I'm talking about today. And so for me, career-wise, like I had gotten into fitness. I was a personal trainer. I was doing that for over 16 years, all in all. And I had noticed as, I was working through a lot of these issues and trying to figure out like what to do. Like I didn't want to go on medications and stuff. Because I was just very strongly opposed to that in most cases, and I really feared like the side effects and all the kind of things and being hooked on medications for the rest of my life and all that stuff. So, a lot of things I had to figure out how to deal with, and I noticed a lot of things with clients I was training who were struggling to lose weight, who had chronic pain and injuries, and just the whole outlook on their life was so dark and bleak and almost hopeless. And I was often like the last resort that they came to, like when nothing else worked. And what I started to realize was over the years, it was like the same type of patterns with helping people get to a place where they would overcome pain and injuries, where they would lose weight. And when I was helping them overcome these problems, it was like everything in their life started to change. They started to have hope where before they were hopeless. They started to, have better relationships with, their spouses, their kids, their friends and everything. They were going out doing more things. They were happier. They were feeling more successful. They were achieving bigger goals. And I was like, holy crap, like there's a whole kind of process to this whole thing. And it was interesting because most of the work that I was doing, it really wasn't like about a workout or about a diet. Like, yes, those have an influence. If you want to lose weight or build muscle, get stronger, or you have like sports performance goals, you're running marathons, whatever. Yes, those are involved. But the best diet and workout program on the planet will never work if you don't follow it. So the big thing was dealing with the mindset with people, having or helping them to overcome the obstacles. And the obstacles weren't like really physical obstacles that weren't the problem. It was the obstacles that we all do it, right? We create them right up here every time. And this doesn't matter if it's fitness. It doesn't matter if it's like, related to money. It doesn't matter if it's related to your career or relationships or whatever the case may be. The obstacles, the biggest ones, are right up here. And so that's what I want to talk about today. So we are getting into the 4 steps. So we talked about what they were. Number 1, identify your story. 2,
identify where your story came from.
Yep. 3,
Stop, drop, and replace.
I don't know if our dog Lily's on camera, but she's just chilling out with us right here.
Yeah.
So it's like my daughter's like sister right here. Say hi, Lily.
Hello.
There's Lily.
Oh.
Okay, she's kicking because she don't want to be
Yeah.
up in the air there. Anyway,
Oh.
great. Now we've got 3. So now we've definitely got someone watching here. So 3, stop, drop, replace. It's actually I'm calling it really like flipping the script here. We'll talk about that, and then 4 is to
Rewrite your story.
Yep. So the thing here's the thing now. When we get into this, the big thing to understand is like, you know, we all have goals. I mean, look at like now of all times, we're in March. We're in the middle of March, or actually the end of March, and this is a time where if you take New Year's resolutions, that's the most common time people set goals. And what happens is by the end of January, like most people statistically have long given up on the goals they have. And, you know, one of the biggest obstacles that get in the way, where we talk about like identify your story. Well, you know, identifying a story has to do with, you know, all of the things that we tell ourselves or the things that we believe about ourselves. What I called it in my book, I wrote about it, and I call it your self-concept. And that was an easy way for me to describe it's the overall idea you have about who you are, what you believe about yourself, your view of the world and how you fit into the world and all that. That's your self-concept. So the self-concept really comes down to 2 things. It's your self-image and your self-talk. And these are 2 big things, bless you.
Thank you.
Because do you know what self-image is?
No.
Like when I say your self-image, what's an image?
Like it's a picture?
Yes. So if we say your self-image, what is your self-image, do you think?
The picture of yourself.
Boom. Perfect. 9 years old. So your self-image then it's basically how you see yourself. For years, I saw myself as unsuccessful, as fat, as weak, as lazy, broke, you name it. That's some of the ways that I saw myself. That was like if I closed my eyes and I could draw you a picture of me, that's the picture I would have drawn. You know, something like that. So how we see ourselves is huge, and I'm going to explain exactly why in a minute. So the second is self-talk. So self-image is how we see ourselves. What do you think self-talk is?
Talking about yourself.
Uh-huh. So it's how we talk either about ourselves. When you're around like friends, family, just people, how you talk about yourself. Do you talk about yourself in a way that like disempowers you, where you're saying, man, you know, yeah, I would love to do that, but I can't because, you know, I'm not good enough, or I can't because I'm not smart enough, or I don't know the right people, or, you know, whatever. I'd like to lose weight, but I can't because, you know, my body's not that way. I'm big boned, or, you know, whatever the case may be, right? We've all felt that, I think, at one time or another. So our self-talk, how we talk about ourselves, and even more importantly, how we talk to ourselves. Because a lot of the times, you might be aware of it and you might not, but a lot of the times we talk to ourselves and say
mean
things,
way.
yeah, in a way that's so mean that we probably wouldn't talk to somebody we really cared about, a best friend, in that way. Like we wouldn't say those types of things or those types of words, but yet we think that way and we talk that way to ourselves as well. So when you take a self-image and a self-talk, you combine those together, that's a self-concept. And when they are constantly focused on all of the things we don't like, don't want, can't do, can't have, things like that, that creates this whole concept of ourselves. So when you try to set a goal for yourself that says, hey, you know, I want to make $1 million this year, but if you have beliefs that counter that, that run opposite to that, your self-image and your self-talk are that you are broke, you are never going to make that kind of money, you're going to be stuck in a job you're at forever, or anything like that. And believe me, this can apply to any area, fitness, you know, money, relationships, whatever. But if you carry those kind of beliefs, that is going to counteract the goal you're trying to go after. You will basically behave in ways that will sabotage that goal. It's like people who want to lose weight, they say want to lose 30 pounds, but yet off they go eating, desserts and bags of chips and doing all the things that they know they're not supposed to do. And I know this because I've done it. And, we're doing all the things we know they're not going to bring us closer to that goal. We're sabotaging it. We know we're doing it, but we don't know, why are we doing it or how to stop it. And a lot of that comes from the self-concept. We have a self-concept that is a lot different from the goal that we're setting. So the key here when we talk about identifying your story is really looking at that self-concept and identifying your self-image and your self-talk and just becoming aware of what that all is. What does it look like? What does it sound like? Because if you're not aware of these things, you can't change it. Awareness creates choice. The problem is that most of the time we go through life unaware, completely unaware, because we're in routines. We're locked in routines. We're going to work. We're doing our everyday thing, and it's all a routine. Meaning that from a subconscious standpoint, it's like a pre-programmed pattern. We're just programmed like computers to keep doing what we do. We're like freaking robots. And so we never really take the time to stop and become aware of these thoughts that go through our head or the images that we see or how we think about ourselves, really how we're talking about ourselves and what it's doing to us. So hopefully that's making a little bit of sense. So we got to start by identifying what the story is that we're telling ourselves. What do you think about that? You put a bow in Lily's hair. How nice.
Well, she needs to be a princess.
Okay, so do you have any thoughts about that?
About what?
About what I just talked about. About your self-concept, how you see yourself, how you talk to yourself or about yourself.
How do I feel?
Just any thoughts that you have. On
Okay.
that.
I don't
feel?
have thoughts. I just have feelings.
Okay, how do you feel?
I feel that self-concept is not if you're using it in a bad way, there's two different ways to use it. If you're using it in a good way, okay. So there's two sides of it: a good way and a bad way.
Okay.
It depends. Which way? Do you want me? How do you feel?
Which way you use it? You mean?
Yeah.
Like good or bad? So.
Which way were you using it?
Yeah. So you can use.
Were you using it in a bad way?
Yeah.
Oh, so I feel like if you use it in a bad way, I feel that you are hurting yourself inside because anger isn't very good to have all the time.
Yeah. So.
Because when you get angry, deep inside your heart, you're really sad. You're not angry. You're just really sad.
Absolutely. So there's the bad way would be in a way that is negative for you or takes you further away from who you want to be and what you want to do. Yeah, absolutely. And a positive way would bring you closer to your goals. There you go. Perfect. So let me check real quick and see if we got any...
Oh, and I put a bow in Lily's hair.
Yeah. All right. So we got Michelle's watching. Michelle, what's going on? Glad you're here. Heather, what's going on? Glad you're here. So anyway, let's keep going. So we went through identify your story. And now let's talk about number 2, identify where your story came from.
So it's not okay. It's not like it came from a horse or nothing it's not that kind of.
Yeah.
It's not that kind of where your story came from. It's a different kind.
Yeah. So as you start to become aware of how you see yourself and the talk, the things that you're saying, you start to think about where did this come from. So a lot of times what's interesting is that we get these ideas about ourselves and beliefs about ourselves. Beliefs are the toughest thing because, they are reinforced at a very deep level. It's a subconscious thing. And, subconscious mind, your subconscious mind rules everything. It is so powerful. So depending on, what you read and everything, it could be 98%, some people say 95%, whatever. It's your subconscious mind is running the show. So if you have like these beliefs that are running contrary to who you want to be and what you want to do and whatever you want to have in life, those subconscious beliefs are going to override these goals you set, these intentions that you have, these dreams that you have. They're just going to keep pulling you out. So what we have to look at, though, is the thing with beliefs is look at where they came from. Because most of the time, the beliefs that we have were not ones that we created for ourselves. They were beliefs that were handed down to us, that we blindly accepted and adopted as our own. Because, we do this at a very, very young age when we don't know any better. We're little kids and we have powerful influences. Our parents, family members. As we get a little bit older, there's, teachers and, and relatives and friends and all of this. And especially at a very young age when, you heard the saying, kids are like sponges. Their minds are soaking. It means that your brain is soaking everything in about your environment.
So, like, you're it kind of means that you're smart?
Yeah, you're definitely smart, but also that you're taking in a lot of information. Like a sponge, when you soak up a spill, it soaks it up.
Water.
So if you have all this information, you soak it right up into your brain. So it's very important because then the things that we're being told about ourselves, the things that we're starting to get certain ideas about who we are, and those become beliefs because they become patterned in our brain over and over and over. They become beliefs. And that's how we live our life. As we get older, these beliefs become stronger, more reinforced, and we start living our lives according to these beliefs. Case in point, I, years ago, in 2000, I want to say 2000, I was working for a mentor of mine, and we were doing a speaking engagement, and he was going to speak. And there was 150 people in the audience. So he was going to speak, and I was supposed to just sit back there and, just kind of, because I'm working with him. I'm part of his business and everything. I was one of his trainers. But he was supposed to speak. So as we're getting ready to begin, he comes over to me, and I'm sitting in the chair, and he goes, "Hey, Kev, by the way, you're going to be, I'm going to need you to come up and speak in a minute." And I'm like deer in headlights. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. About what? What am I going to say? So I was so freaked out. He springs this on me at the last minute. And I'm deathly afraid of speaking in public. Deathly afraid. I don't want to do that, okay? And so the time goes up and I have to go on stage. There's 150 people in the audience. And I'm walking up. It was my self-image, okay? You want to talk about self-image? It was a death row inmate walking into the chamber for, to get the lethal injection or the, whatever. I felt like that. I'm in this orange jumpsuit and shackled with chains to my feet and my hands. That's the vision I had of myself at that time. So I get up on that stage and I look out and I'm thank God there's a podium there, because I had to hold on to it because my legs were shaking so bad. And long story short, I didn't know what to say. I was so nervous. The audience felt it. And I bombed up there. I tanked so bad. And I just wanted to get the hell out of that place. I never wanted to speak again in public in my life at that time.
Why?
Because I hated it, and when I bombed, it made me feel worse about myself.
Well, you know what?
What?
At least you weren't singing in public. I'd rather speak in public.
Oh my
sing.
God, that would be even worse. So here's the thing, though. About 10 years later, 2010. I get invited to Istanbul, Turkey, of all things, to go and
it said in your book.
Yeah, and speak. And this was I was going to be there 3 days, and I had to speak in 2 different cities to a bunch of trainers and fitness professionals and exercise instructors and all this stuff. And it was interesting because I was freaked out, but I wanted to do this. There was like, I started to realize like I had a bigger purpose at this time, and I wanted to do this. And so I ended up flying out there, and then the day that I'm supposed to go on, it's this big, giant, freaking beautiful 5-star hotel. This guy rented out this incredible looking like, what is it? What do you call a hall or whatever? Anyway, so the people are starting to pile in the room, and it's like 10 minutes or so before I go on, and I'm starting to feel nervous now. I'm getting unsure of myself. I feel my hands are starting to sweat, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get the hell out of here. I can't do this. And I'm flipping out, right? I feel my heart starting to race, right?
You're flipping your lid.
Yeah, so guess what I did?
Quit?
I wanted to, and I tried to. I slipped out the door, and I was going to go and just catch a flight home. I was going to go get a taxi and just go home. Like, I'm going, I can't do this. So I go to leave this hotel. Now, this place was humongous, and I don't know if I was just so frantic or what, but I couldn't find the exit door. So I was running down hallways and everything, and I was in such a panic. So I found a men's room, and I just went in there and I locked myself in the toilet stall, and I wouldn't come out. And I'm sitting in there, and I'm just like, I can't do this, and guess
Why
what?
were you sitting in the toilet?
Well, I wasn't like sitting on the toilet. I was in the stall, just like panicking. I didn't want to come out. So guess what? Like, I started to calm down in there after a couple minutes, and so what I started to think about was,
if I quit, this is gonna happen, and I won't be able to speak. But then all the people who really think that I can do it and who come to listen to me speak, they're gonna be bummed out because they know that I'm capable of doing it.
that's part of it. The other part was that I started to picture, so self-image kind of coming in. I pictured myself flying home and facing my wife and my daughter and having to tell them that I didn't do it, I quit, I gave up.
And here you are telling me that, oh, don't give up.
Yep.
But here, listen.
Yep.
You just were about to do it.
Yeah, that was it. And in that kind of moment, it shifted. I was like, I can't do that, because I would always tell her, like, you go after your dreams and do all this stuff and all that. And she's like, really, young at the time, like 3 years old or whatever, but still the same. Like, I didn't want to be that person that, I'm saying one thing and doing another. So I started to calm down, and I ended up going back in there. And I'm glad I did, because within about, I don't know, maybe like 15 minutes or so, like 10 minutes, I started to calm down. Within about 15 or 20 minutes, like I started feeling like an energy in me. Like I'm just like this. I'm loving this. Like, this is what I was meant to do, kind of thing. And so I did this thing for 8 hours. And this was just one day, 8 hours doing this. And when I was done, like, the whole place is just dead silent. And I'm like, oh crap. Like, nobody liked this. Like, they're all dead silent.
And you thought, they didn't like at all what I had to say.
Yeah. I'm like, they hated me. I got to get out of here. But then what happened is, like, one by one, they started clapping and standing up out of their seats. And, like, the whole place erupted. It was like a standing ovation. It was nuts. It was so loud. And they were, like, all coming up, wanting to take their pictures with me and all this crazy stuff. It was nuts. They like, really loved it. And so, I went on and did 2 days, 8 hours a day, and did that whole thing. But, that whole thing about, knowing where your story came from, my story was like, I can't speak. I'm afraid of it. I don't ever want to do it. I suck at it. Like, all of that was my story, and that was coming from that one experience I had where I bombed. One experience, and I allowed the one experience to I almost did, allowed it to like completely sabotage something that I really felt inside me I wanted to do later on in life. Now, you remember about gymnastics, what we were talking about the other day?
Oh, yeah.
Is this similar?
Kind
you want
of.
to talk about like
Kind of.
having a bad experience, and you want to quit doing something that you really love to do because of one experience? Remember? What were we talking about?
How like wait, where's that notebook? I'm gonna go get it.
We don't know. We don't need the notebook. But what we were talking about gymnastics, like
that they like my teacher was, well, I'm not gonna name her.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say Mrs.
Go ahead.
So she
Keep going.
she came over and she like I messed up, and I asked because like she told me to do something and I forgot because I was doing like, okay, so we have to do at first straight jumps across the miniature trampoline.
Yep.
And so I accidentally messed up, and I was supposed to do straight jumps, straddle, and then land in a motorcycle stop. But I accidentally did straight jump, and then motorcycle stop all around. Okay. And what she did was she got kind of mad at me.
Yeah. So now you got to the point where you wanted to quit doing gymnastics, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then
it was happening a lot.
Yeah. So and that's what we were talking about. Was I was asking her, like, do you really enjoy doing gymnastics?
I do.
Yeah. And about how, one experience, we...
Just because you experience one experience is bad, doesn't mean that every single time you try it's going to be bad.
Yeah. So, like, not to let one experience stop you from doing something you really love to do, right? We are the creators, really, of our experience. So it's not really what happens to us that defines anything. It's really the meaning that we give it, right? That's why, like, if you've ever known people who the littlest damn thing will set them off, piss them off, stress them out, whatever, littlest thing, and you wonder, you're like, oh my God, like, you just can't understand, like, how does something that little get them that way, get them so mad, get them so, overwhelmed and things like that. And yet, there's other people who, they could take a whole load of stuff and
they'll be fine. They won't get mad or anything.
Yep, and it doesn't even bother them. They're like, they're like happy, and you're thinking, like,
doesn't that bother them?
Yeah, doesn't that bother you? How can you be like that, right? So anyway, but that's knowing where the story came from, your story, and if you really tune into it, asking yourself where or whose voice it is. A lot of times, like I was talking about earlier, the beliefs that we adopt, those become our story, right? I want to do this, but I can't because I'm not good enough. I want to do this, but I can't because I'm not smart enough. Or I want to lose weight, but I can't because
my body doesn't want to.
I had this thing where, after around that 2010 time, like I wanted to transition out of fitness, and I wanted to do like motivational speaking. Remember when I was starting to do motivational speaking and stuff? Mm-hmm. And what was interesting about that was every time I thought about doing that, I would get excited, right? I was like, oh my God, and I was picturing this. I could actually envision it. And then what happened was I started to get that old self-concept started kicking in. And the self-talk was coming in. And the self-talk, the craziest thing is, I had this voice that was telling me that you're nothing like Tony Robbins. Because, like, Tony Robbins to me was something I would kind of aspire in terms of him being able to empower people, and he's doing what I would like to do. I don't want to be Tony Robbins, but he was somebody I looked up to. I read his books and all that, and I was inspired by him. So obviously, my self-talk brain starts comparing myself to him. You're not like him. You aren't as successful as Tony Robbins. You aren't as smart as Tony Robbins. You're nothing like Tony Robbins. Therefore, you can't speak because nobody's going to listen to you because you're not Tony Robbins. And it drove me nuts. I really thought that. And that would always kind of pull me out and stop me from doing more with the speaking. It was like this big thing in my mind, my self-talk was like, you're not like Tony Robbins, so you can't be a speaker. It was crazy. Where was the voice coming from? Whose voice was it? Well, that was my voice, but I had a lot of other things going on where they were not my voice. It was sometimes the voice of my mother. It was sometimes the voice of my father-in-law, or sometimes it was the voice of somebody who told me something at one point, and I just blindly accepted something. Or sometimes somebody said something and they meant well, but I took it in a completely different way, and it became a belief, right? So it's really, identifying where your story came from, listening to whose voice it is. When you've got a belief that runs through your mind, or a thought that comes through that is telling you some reason why your goal isn't possible, stop and identify what that is, and then see if you can identify whose voice is it. Is it yours, or is it somebody else's? And again, awareness is the key to all of this. When you become aware, you have choice, right? If you're not aware, you don't have choice. You don't really know what's going on. But once you become aware of things, that's where you'll start to see choices you have. So identify where the story came from. Number 3.
Oh, stop, drop, and replace.
Yeah, I'm actually, I wrote it in the book as stop, drop, replace. I'm really calling it more I refer to it a lot as flip the script type of thing here, where, where we start to hear that voice in our head, okay? So, I want to lose 30 pounds. I can't because, my body's not meant to be that way. I've always been overweight. I struggle with my weight. These are stories that we lock ourselves into, and then those become our beliefs, and the beliefs become the way that we live our entire lives. So, if we have something like that, we get good at identifying, what the thought is, or the belief, or whatever. We stop, we become aware of it, and then we learn to, I said before, drop and replace it, but really if you could just flip it. Flip the script, right? Uh-huh. I can't because, flip that script around, yes?
Can I read that one paragraph?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this is one paragraph under...
You read that, and I'm going to check and see.
It's a one paragraph under stop, drop, and replace. In identifying your story, you've discovered some disempowering beliefs, regardless if they are true or not, that do not support you. Now that you know these...
Hey, Lisa, how's it going? Go ahead. Just want to say hi.
Now that you know these do not serve you in any beneficial way, it's time to let them go.
Yep.
That was the first paragraph.
Yep. That's it, right? So, it's becoming aware of that voice that's telling you all the reasons why you can't, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, your goals and dreams in life aren't possible, and it's really flipping the script on them. And, so you can do that by just kind of catching yourself, becoming aware, observing it though. And I think that's the easiest way, because when you observe it enough times, like I said, you become aware of it, and then it's easier to change things there. After a while, you start going, damn, where is this coming from? Or why do I keep saying this? You start to observe these things. And then you can start to flip the script around to where instead of, thinking of I can't because, you can start to ask yourself, how can I? Right? I can't lose weight because, I've been fat my whole life, or I can't, get a better job because blah, blah, blah. I don't know the right people. I don't have the connections. How can I lose weight? How can I lose the weight? How can I get the better job? How can I feel happier? How can I live the life I want to live? Right? Those types of things. So flip that script. All right. And finally, number 4.
Rewrite your story.
Yes. Rewrite your story. So what do you got on that?
So, it says under rewrite your story.
If you're just tuning in, by the way, I stumbled on my book. This is a book I wrote a few years ago, The Dream Principles, and I was going to do a video on my own today. This is my first attempt at Facebook Live.
But you decided to put it with me.
Well, I caught you reading it,
Yeah.
She was reading the book, and I was asking her.
In secret. He didn't know, kind of.
Yeah, and so we just had a conversation about why she was what she was reading about, and so we decided to do this video together.
So the paragraph under it, I might even read that one.
Okay.
Every story has an author. You are the author of your story, but you've given the pen to other people and allowed them to write it for you. The great thing about being an author is that you can rewrite your story in any way you want. It's the same as when an author revises a book he's written. You will be doing the same. Now rewrite your story in the exact way that you want.
Okay, cool.
To be
We're
in
good
your
right
life.
there. So that is basically it. When you become aware of the thoughts you're having, of the beliefs that are going on, and that's when you have choice. So I've said it before, awareness creates choice. So you have a choice, and you are the creator of your story, you are the creator of your life. And it's not the other way around. If you don't take that pen and start rewriting your story the way you want it, someone else is going to write it for you. That voice in your head's going to tell you what you can and can't do. The boss at your job is going to always be telling you what to do. You're always going to be the victim of your circumstances that are going on and life's events and all of that.
In other words, is that people are going to be making decisions for you.
Yep.
Like if someone asks you, do you want ice cream? And you don't get a chance to speak, and someone else will say, oh no, he doesn't want ice cream. So they're basically making decisions and your choices when that's probably not what you want.
Exactly. You create your life
Papa Randy's here.
the way that you want it, and then go ahead and go answer that, and
Make sure Lily stays
I'll
there.
take her.
Continue with Facebook Live.
So that is it, though. But you got to be the one to rewrite your story, because if you don't, somebody else is going to rewrite it for you. I've got a part here that I'm going to read real quick, and I just want to share this with you. And I got to hold my dog here because we got a visitor at the door, and she'll go running off. Is the door closed?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Lily. You can go see who's there.
Is Facebook Live over?
Nope, I'm still going. So, here it is.
Oh, Lisa misspelt my name.
That's okay. She didn't mean to. So, here we go. When my darkest days finally came to an end, I had been in and out of rehab at least 5 times, none of which worked, was arrested on 2 occasions, had nearly lost my marriage 3 times, and it was all said and done. The one thing that brought me back from the depths of this hell was discovering who I was, my life purpose, and the 5 concepts you're about to discover. I mean, that kind of says it all. Like, you know, everything that I went through, you know, I could have just let that story go on and exist, and I would have lived the rest of my life out according to that story. Fact of the matter is that, you know, I used, you know, some concepts, and this was part of it. And this was through my experience of helping people, you know, not only working with myself, but helping other people achieve goals, and just using some simple concepts, meaning that, you know, again, we are the creators of our life. And, you know, I knew at that point, like, there was a point where I really woke up and just started to realize, like, holy crap, if I don't do something, you know, then I'm going to live with a lot of regrets. I'm going to be at the end of my days thinking the 5 worst words of regret. I wish I would have. Wish I would have done this. Wish I would have done that. Wish it would have been different. And by then it's too late. So, you know, it was just, this is just part of it. But hopefully, you know, some of this made sense, or you got something from this. That's about all I've got today on this. If you got something from it, let me know. If there's something else you would like to go further into or like me to talk about, again, this is the first time I'm doing Facebook Live, let me know about it. Give me your feedback on this. Was this something you found interesting? Was it something that was completely not interesting? What did you get from this? What would you like to see? Let me know, and I will see about doing another video down the road. Again, if you tuned in and I didn't mention you, Lolita, you were watching earlier. I didn't acknowledge you. I'm sorry about that. I saw you were watching earlier. Thank you when you tuned in. Marty as well. Marty Bhatia, thank you so much for tuning in. And that's going to be it. So I'm going to sign off for now, but let me know what you thought. Let me know what you found interesting. Let me know if there's something you would like me to do that you would find interesting. And I'll talk about that another day. So happy Friday. Have a great weekend, and I'll be talking to you soon. Take care.